Good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to the webinar tonight, No Money, No Problem. We're scheduled for about an hour and a half, so sit back and relax. And this is going to be a very interactive webinar. On your screen, please note that on the top right-hand corner, you've got a little box that says questions. And as Beth, oh, excuse me, by the way, my name is Sherry Mayberry, and Beth Smith is going to be conducting the webinar. Sorry, I forget about that sometimes. Um, but anyway, in the question box, that's where you will type responses as Beth asks you to participate with some of the questions and some of the activities. So you want to take time when you enter that in that question box, you'll just send it. But that's also the place you would send if you're having any other questions about just the webinar itself or how to get in touch with us or whatever. But whenever Beth asks you to participate with an activity, that's where you'll enter your response. Now, we have a lot of people on our webinar tonight, which is great. So if we don't get to read your response, please don't take offense. We might not be able to get to everyone because we do have quite a few people on the webinar from all over. Um, but tonight we have hopefully a very interactive and have an opportunity for you to participate and you to listen to what other people have to say. And hopefully you go away and feel like that you've learned something that you can take with you tomorrow and use with your children. But Beth Smith's going to be conducting the webinar, and I'm going to turn it over to Beth now so we can get started.
Hey everybody, it's been a crazy day here. I hope that it hasn't been as crazy where you are. My name is Beth Smith, as Sherry just mentioned, and I'm going to be your trainer for this evening. This is going to be a very interactive
Beth?
webinar. Is I'm a strong believer that we all learn from each other and talk all night long, because back and forth like question box. And please share your ideas. We might not be able to read them all off, but we'll definitely be learning from one another as we go through this webinar. This webinar is really fun to do because it helps us all to stop and think outside the box about the many different materials we have in our homes that can be used as to create learning opportunities for children. And sometimes, too often in education, we're meant to think that you have to have the fanciest manipulatives or the most expensive water table, when that's really not the case. You can learn the same things, for instance, water play. Yeah, if you have a great fancy water table, that's fabulous. But you know what, an under the bin storage box with some water in it on a table works just the same way. And so, this is what this webinar is really all about. It's really all about creating learning opportunities with the things that you have on hand. And the best part of that is, you have them on hand, and so it saves money too, which is really important to everybody. So with that said, let's get started with we're going to start with a PowerPoint. We're going to do a lot of interactive. We'll come back and go to our website where I'm going to show you where some more free materials are. But please, if you have questions, in addition to sharing your ideas, please share them, because I will be stopping a lot during this webinar so that we can answer questions and read off everybody's ideas. So what are we going to learn? We're going to learn about household materials and how they can be learning materials, like I just said. We're going to learn also about how you can use one material, let's say a blanket, for different developmental areas. So how you could use a blanket to promote gross motor, how you could use a blanket to encourage dramatic play, how you could use a blanket to build fine motor control. So we're going to talk about that. That's going to be part of this, because it's really great to to share ideas and to plan activities, but it's also really important to understand why you're doing the activities that you're doing. What areas are you addressing? We're going to talk about adapting for different developmental levels, right? So for instance, if you're using a plastic water bottle, obviously you don't want the caps to be in the hands of toddlers. That's not a good situation at all. So we're going to talk about that. That ties in with the next one about safety, right? So keeping in mind that what might be safe for a 4-year-old or a school-age child may not be safe for a toddler. And then some materials are not safe for any child. And then using social media for inspiration and sharing. And we're going to use this webinar for that. We're going to use this webinar for inspiration and sharing because, again, I strongly believe that we all learn from each other. And so the webinar format of this is a little different than maybe something you've been to before where you're just sitting and listening and taking in. This one is going to really ask you to participate. So the more the people that participate, the better it is. So let's continue on. So, one of the biggest things to remember is that learning happens literally everywhere. So, we tend to sometimes think about learning in boxes, right? You know, you're going to have and in elementary school, or particularly when you get into high school where you have subjects, right? We have math and we have reading and we have social studies and we have, PE and we have science. But honestly, um, learning and in all those different areas happens everywhere. And as an early childhood educator, you're very in tune with that. I mean, everything from diaper changes to nap time to outside play to inside free play. It is all it can all be a learning experience. And for those of you that are family child care providers, your home is filled with materials that can help to promote learning in many different developmental areas and for all different developmental levels, which is tricky to say. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started. All right. So I have some of these actually in my pantry right now. These plastic drink cups that come in multicolors, which I love when I have guests visiting and I can write their names on them and they can use the same glass the whole time they're here. So what I have over here on this side is I have a list of areas. So like literacy and books or language, science, math, art, manipulative, including sand and water, dramatic play, blocks, gross motor, and health. All right. So these plastic drink cups, we're going to assume these are like your standard 16-ounce plastic drink cup. So your challenge, and we're gonna this is kind of like your little practice to see about using that question box to share your ideas, is I have picked two areas, but we have so many people on this webinar tonight, so maybe we just pick one. And you think of how you could utilize these plastic drink cups for one of these areas with the children. So right now, let's not focus on multi-developmental levels. Let's just focus on the area. So I'll give you an idea. So let's say I'm going to use these for gross motor play. Okay. And my idea would be to set them up like in a zigzag pattern on the floor, and the children could run around the pattern, they could hop around the pattern, they could crawl around the pattern. You could even take them outdoors and they could ride around through the pattern, and they could make their own patterns. Like maybe you start them out with a zigzag and then they provide them with a whole lot of cups, and they can build all kinds of patterns that they can move through in all different ways. Okay, one idea to get you started. So now what I want you to do is I want you to pick an area, can be any of these areas, and I want you to suggest how you would use the plastic cups with your children. And what I would like you to do is in the question box, you can just type the area. So say I chose gross motor, so I would say gross motor, and then I just type a very short description of what I would do. Not nearly as long as what I just said, obviously. And then what we're going to do is Sherry is going to read off some of your ideas. Um, and my hope is if you type these in the question box, and this is why it's critical for you to do this, when we get a report at the end of this webinar from GoToWebinar, I will have that information typed out in a spreadsheet. And what I plan to do, or what I would like to do, is compile all of your ideas and send you after the webinar is over and like towards the end of the week, whenever I can get it done, a compiled list of all the different ideas that people shared during the webinar, so you would have it. So that's why it's great if you type it. That way I will have it too, because it will print out on that report. So all of that said, let's see what everybody comes up with and challenge yourself. Pick an area that you don't feel like you maybe plan as many activities for. If you feel like you're always doing art, then maybe pick blocks or dramatic play and type it in the question box, and then Sherry's going to read some of these out.
We are already getting some great responses. Before you even finish talking, Beth, gross motor, pour water from one cup to another. Blocks, stacking them. Art, put paint on a plate and kids can dip tops in paint and stamp on paper. I think there's more, and I've got to figure out how to get that displayed. Anyway, science, water, play, emptying and filling the cups, blocks, stacking them, math, counting and sorting, patterning, manipulative, using sand and water, creating sand castles in a sensory band, math, children could use cups to measure height of table, length of table, um, math with same colored pom-poms. I would have the children, hold on, I'm going to have to get to a place where I can read these. One second. Sometimes I can only see part of the printout. I would have the children count the pom-poms and match them. Science, make phones. Block
Oh, like
stacking.
telephone, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dramatic play, use the cups as musical instrument. Blocks, put the color of blocks in the same color of the cup. Gross motor, throwing balls into the cup. See, I'm trying to pick a couple of different ones. Kids can count the cups with different categories, math, and then more directions about how to use a phone with attaching a string and,
Oh,
the phone
yep.
from end to end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stacking block, tossing balls. I would use these in dramatic play, and kids can use as phones. Literacy, put letters on the cups. And stacking blocks, math, sorting them. Oh, help for toothbrushing is to store your
Ah.
toothbrushes. Yeah. Literacy, describing cups and colors for receptive skills. Math, measuring, allowing children to pour water into the cups and verbalizing which is bigger.
Mm.
Pretend to wash dishes.
Anything that
Um,
involves water is always fun.
these would be great for loose parts and let the kids decide how to play with them themselves. That's a
Yep,
great
you could
idea.
make a whole loose parts table just of, well, because not just these colored cups here, but you could add there's all different kinds of cups. There's bathroom cups and they come in paper and plastic, and then yeah, you can make a whole cup loose parts play area.
Art, use the cups to outline shapes on the floor or table. Art, use with colored water, and the kids can dump and pour the colors.
Ah, to mix
These
them.
are
Yes.
used for different colored food. Some great responses, and I'm not
Yeah.
even reading all of them, but thank you. That was a great
Well,
response.
and it's great that you're typing them in, because even if we don't read it out loud, like I said, because you've typed it, that will then, when we get the report, I'll be able to see all those and I can compile them for you. Those were some great responses. The thing about it is that and I hope it came through, was think about all the amazing things you can do with plastic cups, right? Like, these are not highly I don't know how you would say it, like hard to use type materials. They're things you have around the house.
And
They're
cheap.
not, and cheap, and they're not hard to find, at least right now. Who knows, with the supply chain issues, that might be a problem, but they're not hard to find. So the thing about it is that there are so many things you can do with just a simple plastic cup. You guys did a great job. All right, so what we'll also talk about as we go on is, right then I had you focus on one area, right? So we were focusing on one area, but really, when you think about it, when you plan an experience, very rarely is it ever, if ever, is it going to address just one area of development. So, for instance, here's a little guy, which is actually my son who's now 20, believe it or not, playing outside in our backyard. And he had a bucket, and I believe there was a lot of mud and water in there, which is pretty typical. But, you could do an experience called How Many Cups? And the goal could be, obviously not with this age child because this is a toddler, but with older children, to see how many cups it takes to fill different things. So thinking back to those 16-ounce cups, right? And in this case, that's actually, I believe, one of the things that a bush or a mum or some type of potted plant would have come in from nursery. And so you could have water and then count how many cups it takes to fill that. And then you could go find another container, maybe a plastic bowl, or maybe like a little Rubbermaid box, and you could do the same thing. How many cups does it take to fill it? And when you do that, you're obviously doing math, right? Because you're talking about counting how many cups. You're also exposing children to the concept of volume, especially if you're working with school age children. You can expose them to the concept of volume. And then you can talk about science and how the water takes the shape of the different containers that it's in. You know, when you pour water from a cup into that container right here, it's obviously going to take the shape of that container. It's not going to be like staying in the shape it was in the cup. Which to us is like, you know, as grown-ups, we were like, wow, well, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's not anything that mind-blowing, but to a child, it actually is. Approaches to learning, just being persistent and working through a new task, trying new things. If the children are working to fill the pots together to count how many cups, then it could be cooperation as well. Logic and reasoning, having them think about, okay, well, how many, predict, you know, how many cups do they think it's going to take, and then testing to find out. Also, you know, what's the best way to get that water from, you know, wherever the source of the water is into the container they're trying to fill. That takes problem solving skills. Obviously, physical development and health. It takes fine motor control to be able to fill the cup and to dump the cup. If they try to lift up this container right here, once it's full, it's going to be heavy. So that's gross motor. And then if they're, again, if they're working together, you know, cooperation and working with others. If they're working with water, there's an element of self-regulation there. Obviously, there are rules regarding water, what's okay, what's not okay. So what I want you to see here is that, you know, yeah, you have a really simplistic material, a cup, and whatever containers in this case you're going to fill, you know, with the water, but you can cover all these different developmental areas, right? And so when the children are engaging with these materials that are household materials, not only are they great for all kinds of wonderful experiences, but they're also great because they allow you to touch on so many different developmental areas at the same time, which is really the goal, right? You know, that one experience can build skills in so many different areas. So we're going to talk about some common things, right, that you might have around your house that can be awesome, again, materials for working with children and planning learning experiences. Disposable plates, plastic paper. Some places have styrofoam still, some do not, depending on where you live in the country. They come in all different colors, they come in all different shapes. And if you're like me, you probably have a cabinet in your kitchen or in your pantry or somewhere that has an assortment of leftover birthday plates, Halloween plates, Christmas plates, Thanksgiving plates, you know, all kinds of things. And I guarantee you that your parents or guardians have the same thing. So you can ask to have those brought in. It's a great family involvement task for any of these materials, actually. If you ask the parents, the children and the parents together to say, hey, you know, find some of these and bring them into me. Very simple way to promote family involvement. But, you know, if you have an assortment of disposable plates with all different prints and colors and sizes and shapes, just think of all the things you can do with those. Plastic water bottles, clean, obviously. Again, you would not want to have the caps available for anyone under the age of 3 or under. If you did, it would have to be glued and duct taped and secured on there so that there's no way those little fingers could get it off. You know, for instance, if you're making a sensory bottle or something like that. Paper grocery bags, a lot of grocery stores would be willing to donate these if you just ask. Clothes baskets, couch cushions and pillows, blankets, folding tables, plastic mixing bowls, baking sheets. All of these things that are listed right here are things that are awesome materials that you can use in so many different ways. And some of these that are marked as new, like sponges and bath poofs, dollar store, my favorite place of the whole world. I love the dollar store. And again, you can ask parents and guardians if they would be willing to donate those things as well. But these are just some of the many things that you have at your house. We'll talk about safety in a little bit, but obviously you guys are really well tuned to what's safe and what's not for children. It's just really important when you choose to use something that you do have that's a household material to make sure it is in fact safe. Even something like a clothes basket, sometimes those little slits on the side can be a little sharp, right? If you're going to put your finger in there, which it seems like little children love to put their fingers in holes. So, even being aware that it might be something that, okay, well, this one might not be a good one to use, but I have a different clothes basket and I think it would be a better choice. Um, I am sure that you can come up with even more ideas of things that you could use to add to this list. So we're going to talk about an old t-shirt because now what we're going to focus on is, okay, we talked about all the different developmental areas when we were looking at the cups and filling it with water. And now we're going to talk about um, different developmental levels because we know that family child care providers, and even if you're in a center and let's say you're teaching 3-year-olds, no 2 3-year-olds are the same. And when you're in a family child care, it's really all over the board because could have everything from infants to school age. And so when you're planning experiences using household materials, you're thinking about the developmental areas, right? Like art, science, math knowledge, social studies, all of that. But you're also thinking about where they are developmentally. And this is what I tell when we do training, like on our curriculum, I talk about this, is that you have to think about each child as an individual, not as their chronological age. Because just because a child is 3 does not mean they are necessarily developmentally 3 in every area. They might be developmentally 3 in some areas, but they might be more a 4-year-old in some areas, or they may be a 2-year-old in some areas. And so you really have to think when you're planning experiences about different ways for different children to do the same activity but in a slightly different way. So let's say you're using old t-shirts, right? And you have infants and toddlers. One of the things you could do is you could clip them into those, I call them pinchy clothespins, right? So they almost have like a handle to grab onto. And as they paint with these, it would address creative arts, obviously, and then physical development and health. And there'd be many, many more areas that you could address as well. As they're painting, you could talk about what's happening because a lot of infants and toddlers are not verbal yet. And so, as you describe their actions and the materials, you're helping them build receptive language. Okay. And you're also engaging with them, right? Infants, toddlers, and even some 3s that are not very verbal will use nonverbal to communicate with you, nodding, shaking their head, using their hands. You really have to be in tune with the way they communicate. But regardless, if you're describing what's going on, you're helping them build receptive language. So they're building the ability to understand what all these words mean because you're doing it in the context of the experience. Now, let's say you're working with preschoolers. The preschoolers could use pieces of t-shirts in many different ways to create. Some of them may choose to paint with them. Some of them may choose to use them for a collage. Some of them may choose to, um, oh, who knows what they may choose to do with them if you put them in the art center. I mean, that's the thing. They're much more developmentally ready to take it beyond the black and white of, okay, I can only use it in this one way. So, excuse me, as these children are working with the t-shirts, you can challenge them to problem solve and experiment and test their predictions. You can prompt them to share what they're finding out as they explore, and you can encourage them to share and talk about their likes and dislikes. So as you can see, you're addressing all of these different in red developmental areas for this age developmentally and for this age developmentally, but you're using one material, an old t-shirt, in this case, in paint. All right. So the key here is, and what I'm hoping you're seeing is that again, you're using one material, you're setting up the environment, you're adapting it slightly for different developmental levels, but you're addressing so many different developmental areas, okay, with one simple material. Okay, so I have now talked a long time. So now it's going to be your turn again. All right, so now we're going to talk about those plastic water bottles. All right, what I would like you to do is I would like you to think about how you could use plastic water bottles with your group. Choose an age group because it would be, Sherry would be here all night long reading out your responses if we planned for every single age. So you can just say toddlers, 2s, 3s, 4s, and throw some school age and throw some infants in there too, because we know that you have those children. So throw them into the mix. And what developmental areas could you address? So, you're going to say, I'm going to talk about my experience is going to be for infants. And I mentioned sensory bottles a minute ago, and I'm going to use one of these to make a sensory bottle for the infant. All right. Um, and if you could talk about, that's obviously as the infant plays with that, they're going to develop fine motor skills. I'm going to talk to the infant and develop language. Again, Sherry's not going to be able to read off all of your responses, but like I said, I'm going to hopefully be able to compile these into a handout that then I'll email to everybody later on that has all the responses. So don't be afraid to type something out, and if you want to add a lot of detail, go ahead. Um, but the activity, the age group, and the developmental areas you would address. Now, that being said, obviously you want to address as many developmental areas as you can, but you don't need to list all of them. Just pick the main ones that you hope to address. So with that said, I'm going to take a break, grab a drink of water, and you guys can share your ideas.
Okay, some people started responding before you even finished, which is great.
I
But
love
there
it.
was, yeah, there was a response when you were talking about the T-shirt, and one person put, "We cut pieces of sponges to clip in clothespins for younger kids for painting and brushing or dot painting." So that was just from the previous slide.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely.
we use plastic water bottles for bowling.
Oh,
Um,
fun. Yes, yes.
Sensory bottles for toddlers or infants. Bowling again. Tornado in a bottle. Oh, wow. For preschoolers, we use water bottles to paint with as rollers. It
Mm,
addresses art, science, color, mixing, and science with cause and effect and fine motor skills.
excellent.
Toddlers, rice and some small toys in the bottles, hand-eye coordination, and fine motor skills.
Ooh, that
Uh,
sounds like fun.
Tornado in a bottle, preschoolers talking about the weather. For preschoolers, we've used these for fine motor skills and coordination as they stack them.
Ooh, that would
Yes.
be challenging.
Yeah. Use the water bottles to show different colors in the water and how to change the colors. I guess as you add your different food colorings and things.
Mhm, mhm.
Musical instrument, any age, filled with beans, rice, etc., motor skills, and language.
Excellent.
Um, School age, putting beads in the water bottles and counting how many fit in there, which is math.
Wow. And that would be great for some higher numbers too in a
Yeah.
meaningful way.
Bowling, preschoolers, physical activity, math knowledge, counting, and how many bottles did you knock down? Oh, goodness, we got lots. Preschoolers, turning plastic bottles cut ahead of time into pots, planters to grow plants for science.
Oh, like cut the top off and then
Yeah.
use the bot. Yeah. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Manipulative, use large pom-poms to match the color. Oh, that one shoved up from previously from the cups. Preschool age, make water toys with objects inside. Letters, objects, tiny toys. Oops, I'm sorry. Hold, I don't know if y'all can hear that. I'm trying to cut it off. Apologize for that. Um, cut and blow bubbles. For preschoolers, you can use the water bottles for literacy as they match the labels as they learn environmental print.
Oh, 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 yeah, like the labels like Dasani or whatever the label
Yeah.
is on the bottle. Got it.
Yeah. Infants, add rice to one bottle, beans to another, and large pasta, pity pasta to another, prompting children to listen closely to hear the difference in the pitches.
That's auditory discrimination. That's great for
Yeah.
that.
Three S's, science, floating on water, and then add weights for different floating levels. Making
Ooh.
music with the bottles. Um, Pre-K, they dip bottoms of bottles into paint to make inside of flowers. Oh, and then art, science, and language. So I guess the inside
Yeah.
would be the circle of the flower, and then you
Yep. On
put
the
the
bottom.
leaves around it.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, for preschoolers, we've made our own I Spy bottles as they work on fine motor skills as they pour rice and beads into them. They are working on literacy skills as well.
Yeah, I love those I Spy bottles.
Yeah.
They keep them fascinated for a long time too, looking for different things.
I work with infants and sensory bottles, fine motor, and talking about sounds, language, and this sounds and colors together.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. Older kids we fill with different colors of sand or nature rocks or leaves or dirt or just whatever they find.
Hmm.
School age. Make homemade lava lamps with corn syrup, food
Ooh.
coloring, and Alka-Seltzer tablets. Okay, I've not done that.
Hmm.
Preschoolers, a twist on sensory bottles. Fill a bottle with sand or salt and small letter beads. See if they can identify letters in their names as they turn the bottle, around and around. Fine motory, language, and literacy. And one more. Let's see. Toddlers and preschoolers. Math, making predictions. How many bottles can you knock down using a ball? Those are all great.
Yes,
Good.
definitely. Definitely. So, I mean, and like I said, if you have more ideas, type them in because again, we're going to compile them. We just have to keep this webinar moving or we'll literally be here all night. So, what I would also challenge you to do is to think about the areas of development that maybe you don't address as much as you do some others. I know for a lot of providers, they'll say often that science and social studies, they feel like they maybe don't address quite as much. With social studies, because plastic is recyclable, it opens up the door for experiences to just to simply do some investigating about recyclables, and they have the symbols on them and they have numbers, and in different communities they recycle different numbered types of bottles. So for your school agers particularly, they can use the internet the way it should be used as a source of information to find out in their area or their city or their town what types of plastics are recycled, and then they can collect water bottles and then sort them based on recyclability. They could even explore using the internet to find out how plastic bottles are recycled. In fact, your older preschoolers would probably love to learn about that too, which is actually science and social studies and many other things all tied in. So the point being that when you're planning experiences and you're thinking about, for instance, like the plastic water bottles, there are probably some go-to activities that you do all the time, but challenge yourself to think a little bit further beyond that, and sometimes the way to do that is to look at the areas of development that you feel like maybe you don't quite address as much as you want to or as you should, or think about the children in your group and say, okay, this is an area that these children are working on, how could I use these to promote growth in that area? Because I guarantee, as we heard a minute ago, you covered the majority of all the areas of development in the experiences that you talked about. So it just requires a little bit of thinking. So great job. All right, now we're going to do it again. This time, I know I have again a whole pile of these gift bags, making sure, of course, they're paper. And this time of year, you have holiday ones, but there's also birthday ones, or just these are just very colorful ones. So you can think about whatever kind of gift bags you might have. Again, same thing. What activity would you plan? Who, what age group is it for? And what are the main developmental areas that you would want to address? And I challenge you again to think about the areas of development that maybe you don't address as much. And I'm going to name all 10 of them, or the 10 that we focus on at GWiz, which are language development, social and emotional development, literacy knowledge, creative arts, which includes drama, creative dramatics, dramatic play, and also, of course, art, fine art, physical development and health, science knowledge, math knowledge, social studies knowledge, approaches to learning, and logic and reasoning. All right, and just to refresh your memory on approaches to learning is persistence, trying new things, cooperation, logic and reasoning is problem solving, using a common everyday material in a different type of way. Um, so, oh, and under physical development and health, that obviously is going to be your fine motor, your gross motor, but it's also going to encompass things like self-help skills, Safety concepts can fall under there. So keeping all of that in mind, you're going to plan an experience for an age group or an age range if you want, and then the developmental areas, and just challenge yourself to pick something that maybe you feel like you don't do as much, and then type your ideas in the box.
Okay, they are Johnny on the spot tonight because we have responses before you even finish talking, Beth. Okay, so with preschoolers, I've used the gift bags and had the kids put them on their feet for gross motor skill and coordination. I love that.
Okay,
That's
I would never be able to do that without falling, but that sounds like a lot of fun.
preschool age and up, line the bags up in a row and throw a ball into each bag. Count the numbers you get in or miss. Math
Ah,
and physical development. Any age, art, decorate plain gift bags for their family.
mhm.
Math, sorting by colors, patterns, or if they're plain. Threes and up, touch and feel, reaching into bags to guess the items inside.
Oh, they love that. Yes.
Preschoolers creating hand puppets to go along with the book. Developmental areas includes art and literacy. Preschoolers, treasure bags, have children guess what's inside. Infants, we would use the color of the bag to help identify and say colors, and also putting the same or similar colored balls in the corresponding bags to help build hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. Let's see. So, preschoolers, guessing game, different objects in the bag, and the kids guess what's in it, both animals, materials, and I guess like with just shaking the bag.
Mhm.
Hand puppets, for toddlers, color matching, sort by size. For preschoolers, it could be social studies prop as you talk about shopping around the world and then put them in the dramatic play area so they can shop around the world.
Excellent.
Toddlers and up, make a dress up top and add streamers to the bottom.
Oh, fun.
Guess what's in the bag? Toss a ball in the bag, feeling items inside, work on social. Let's see, for preschoolers, you can work on social emotional skills as they fill the bags with small toys or treats and hand out to friends or collect to donate. I like that. You have to have enough of that
Yeah,
giving
you could
back.
collect, especially this time of year is the time of year when we are often donating food, and so that would be a good use of the bag to tie in some social studies, and also that would tie in really well with character education and kindness
Hmm.
and respect,
Yeah,
responsibility, all of those things.
and just giving back. Yeah.
Mhm.
Toddlers, divide into teams of two to encourage cooperation and problem solving. Use solid color bags and have the children walk around the playroom, sorting and classifying by putting similar colored objects into the appropriate bag. Build vocabulary and problem solving by discussing color families and different shades and hues.
That's excellent.
Yeah. Toddlers put their names on the bags and they look for their name and put their name tag in it. Any age, art, make a collage with large materials. Science, infants, texture and color. Use the little hands to fill bags and to name colors of bags. Those are all great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Those are great.
And I think you're seeing really quickly here again, like how easy it is to think about the many different things you can do with something as simple as a gift bag. And I guarantee, once again, that if you ask your parents or guardians, they probably have extras of these laying around. You can also, of course, buy new ones at the dollar store, but most everybody seems to, at least around that I know, has at least one or two of them lying around somewhere. The other thing that I would encourage you to do, and what we're going to do right now, is we're going to stay focused on these bags for just a minute because one area that is really super important is health. I would like to know if anybody can come up with any ideas on how you could use these gift bags to promote an area of health. Let's just cover everything from the importance of exercise, nutrition, taking care of our bodies, getting enough rest. Any ideas on how you could use these gift bags to reinforce that area?
Forget to unmute myself. Um, there's a question out there that says, when you get a chance, can you name the 10 domains again? And Beth, I will let you do that again, but also you need to understand, and Beth will show you when we finish, where you can see that on our website under the user's guide. Um, so Beth, you want to rattle those off?
I will rattle them off one more time and see if I can remember them all after the day I've had. But I will, as Sherry just said, I'm going to show you. We're going to, when we finish with the PowerPoint, I'm going to take you to our website. I'm going to show you where there's something you can download, and within that document, there is we use picture codes at GWiz for the 10 developmental areas. I'm going to show you where that is, but they are language development, literacy knowledge, social and emotional, science knowledge, math knowledge, logic and reasoning, approaches to learning, creative arts, physical development and health, and social studies knowledge. But I am going to show you where that is, so don't feel like you have to write all that down. We do have it on our website, and it's free to anybody, so no need to stress yourself about it right now, but those are the 10. So I'm looking right now for health. I want to see who can come up with some health activities to
For
do with these bags.
All right, for health, matching healthy foods to the color in the bag. So finding something green to go in a
Excellent.
green bag. Yeah, I like that. Just like
Yep.
those commercials on TV with all the health.
Well, they say make a colorful plate, so
That's
I
right.
guess.
Um, run and put the run and put a ball in the bag and run back. So physical development.
Mhm, mhm.
Fill bags with items and use to work out, lift weights for health. So
Oh,
that'd be a
okay.
that's a
Yeah, yeah.
strong
Like
bag.
exercise
Yes.
clothes. Yeah, right. Mhm.
Oh, make it a doctor's bag and have the children give each other a checkup or a Band-Aids. Boy, kids love Band-Aids.
They do love Band-Aids.
Um, Similar color of healthy foods. Put a number in the bag and the amount of the particular exercise size you do, like jumping jacks. Put a 5 and do 5 jumping jacks, I guess is what
Fun.
I'm saying.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent.
Ooh, use them to make healthy lunches and take them on a picnic. I like that.
Ah,
Separate play food into food groups into different bags.
there you go. Excellent.
Have the children sort pictures of food by which part of the food pyramid they come from. One bag for fruits, one bag for vegetables,
Mm.
etc. Putting a sad face and a happy face on them and put all the bad foods they can put in their bodies in the sad bag and all the good healthy foods in the happy face bag, which would be health. For resting, kids can play things in it that help them relax or go to sleep. Place things, I think it means
Ah,
place
uh-huh.
things in them to help them go to
Mhm,
sleep.
mhm, mhm.
Set up a farmer's market for pretend play and discuss how fruits and vegetables and other healthy eating can affect health. Use play foods and children to add only foods that are healthy in the bags, which would be really good right after Halloween. Make stations with pictures of exercise and numbers of times to do it. Rest, give each child their own pillow and blanket and with relaxing music in it, and read a book. I like that. Health, hygiene, toddlers is not going to eat or chew the bags. They make you sick. That's a good one. I like
True.
that.
That is true.
Yeah, those are good. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. You guys did a great job. Again, see, once you just push yourself a little bit to think about an area that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think about, you guys are so creative. You came up with so many different ideas of how you could use this bag to address health. So, once again, I encourage you to push yourself in those areas where you feel like maybe you don't plan as many experiences that are kind of focused in that area, because obviously you can. You did a great job. All right. We're going to do it again. Now, this time we have a whisk. This one happens to be a metal whisk with a wooden handle. There are many, I have some Teflon coated whisks. There's lots of different kinds of whisks. So again, how could you use this material with your children? What age group would it be, and what type of developmental areas would you address? And this time, hmm, I think, I mean, you all can come up with whatever you come up with, but my challenge area for this one is going to be social studies, and that covers families and how families are very different. community, including community helpers, caring for the environment, and then how and history. And so those are the 4 areas of social studies. But you can feel free to plan whatever experiences that you would want. That's just my challenge area for this one.
Okay, as you're coming up with the challenge area, we have two responses. Have kids put pom-poms into the whisk and see how many they can fit in it, and then try it with different size pom-poms or balls, etc. And so that was suggested twice, back to back, by two different people. Um,
That's that's a little crazy.
yeah, I know. We
Wowee.
use we use the whisk to color eggs.
Oh,
Eggs, yeah.
that's a great idea. Like put the egg between the metal and then dip them. That I would never have thought of that. That's
Yeah.
very creative.
For preschoolers, you could do some cooking experience with different recipes from around the world.
Yes. Yes.
Pretend the whisk is a microphone so you can sing. Like
That would be fun.
sand and water used for bubbled and different food coloring. Um, you could use it in the sand and water play. Soap and water mixed to create bubbles for preschoolers. So the more they whisk, the more bubbles they get, I
Yep.
guess.
Yep.
Um, for preschoolers, make a cake and talk about different desserts from different cultures.
Excellent.
Make a restaurant and have the children be the chef.
And that ties in social studies because you're talking about community helpers.
Oh, preschoolers, when as far as the whisking and making soap and bubbles, to create bubbles to work how to kill germs, which would be health. That's really good.
Yes. Very good.
For preschoolers in social studies, you could talk about the different cooking utensils from around the world and let the children try them out.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, we all have whisks, but they probably don't in all parts, in different cultures.
Yeah, different
So,
cultures use different tools.
yeah, those are all good. That's
hmm
all we got. Just
Excellent.
slowing
Some of the
down, just
slowing down just a little bit. Well, some of
yeah.
the other things that you could do with this for that I have actually done is weaving, and that would be for your more advanced preschoolers and your school age children is to give them curling ribbon or yarn and have them weave in and out, and around and around and around. That's a manipulative, obviously, but it's also requiring persistence and patience because it's not something that is necessarily very easy to do the first time you try it. Um, you could paint with whisks. That can be messy but super fun, especially in the summertime. If you tape the paper to a fence where they're outside and they can dip the whisks and then they can rub them or even splatter them all over the paper. Yes, it's messy, but if you're using washable paint and it's summer and you can just play in the sprinkler afterwards, it's all good. Same thing
This is
about
what
making bubbles. You can make mud.
yeah. Well, there's a good one. Someone just suggested to add ribbons and streamers and dance.
Oh,
I
yes.
think
Oh,
that's a
that'd
great
be
idea.
awesome. Yeah, and then you can tie in all kinds of things, right? So if they create them, it's manipulative, but then the dancing, you're tying in music, and then depending on the music that you play from different cultures from around the world, you're adding that in there as well. So absolutely, absolutely. I like the
One last
idea. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. I keep I keep remember I try to cut my mute button on when I'm not talking so I don't bother you guys and then I forget to turn it back on. Preschoolers make cookies to donate to homeless children. I really
Ah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. Any more that are coming in that I'll take all of them you
Water
can get.
painting outside. Toddlers in preschool math and science, language and literacy mix two colors of paint. Children verbalize the mixing colors and the new color.
Ah, excellent.
So
Yes.
that's it. But anyway, those were just some good ones I thought we needed to share real quick.
Oh yeah, very good, very good. I mean, again, a whisk is not something that is, most everybody has a whisk. I have at least two, and they come in different sizes as well. So when you were talking about I was thinking back to the pom pom idea. If you had different sized whisks, then they could count how many fit. Well, first of all, they could predict how many pom poms would fit inside, but then they could actually fill it and then see how close their estimations were. But if you had different size whisks, they could then compare the number of pom-poms that would fit in the small one versus the larger one. And again, a whisk is something that maybe parents and guardians might have that you could say, hey, I need I need an assortment of whisks for tomorrow. Can you send them in? Or for usually give them more than one day because if it was like my day today, it's crazy sometimes. So remembering to bring it the next day might not be as easy. But anyway, if you ask, you would be, might be surprised how many people would bring them in. But you can also find whisks a lot of times at thrift stores for like 50 cents. And the great thing is if they're metal, they can be put in the dishwasher and sterilized, and then the children can certainly use them. So, and add them outside. Like if you have an area, a sand table or a sandbox area, or they have even an area in the dirt where they play, it's sometimes fun to take something like this that's inside normally outside, and it encourages the children to think creatively about how they could use. They might stuff leaves in there, or acorns, or pine cones, or who knows what. But it's just fun to sometimes put those kind of materials outside and just watch to see how the children use them. All right, great job. All right, so last one we're going to do is blankets. This little guy has some pretty pastel colored blankets, but I'm sure you have lots of different kinds of blankets at your home. And there are many different kinds of blankets, right? So there are cotton blankets like these. There are Sherpa blankets. There are quilts. So figure out what kind of blanket you want to use, and then plan an activity for a group, for your age group and then your developmental areas. And if you haven't done or haven't thought about a group experience, maybe you want to plan one of those that's for the whole group instead of maybe just a small group activity. So that's what we're going to do. Last one is blankets. So you can tell us if you feel like you need to, if it's specific to the type of blanket you're using. Just let us know, like, hey, I'm planning this for a quilt or a Sherpa blanket, if it makes a difference. But yeah, type your ideas in, because again, I'm going to compile this all together, and then I'll be emailing it to you once I get it compiled later in the week, hopefully.
Okay, for preschoolers, it could be used as a parachute. Let's see. Yeah. For preschoolers, they would be great for music and movement. It would also incorporate gross motor skills. So I guess like playing music and letting them just take the blankets and move them about. Or if you had a big blue blanket, you could make use of it in literacy activities, and it could be the ocean as you read books about fish. I like that.
Ah,
Building a fort, receiving blankets, wrapping babies. One of our children was about to be a big brother, and we helped him practice. Oh, that I love that.
oh,
Fine motor skills.
swaddling, yeah.
Yeah. Infants play peekaboo, different textures with different blankets.
They
Um,
love peekaboo.
mhm. Use the different textures of the blankets and create sensory sticks. One could also use different types of sandpaper towels, t-shirts, cotton balls, etc. Use the blanket to make a hammock. For toddlers, dramatic play for covering toy babies. Teach them how to fold blankets. Good.
That's a great thing for school age children, yes.
Put blankets over tables for tents. Infants peekaboo. It could work on fine motor skills as they learn to fold. School age. With my summer campers, we talked about camping, and the kids use blankets and other materials and furniture to create tents.
They love that.
Yeah. Infants, using them as sensory activities for different textures of blankets. So just talking about what's soft, what's scratchy, what's hard. Yeah. Create a sensory blanket for the kids to play with, zippers, loose strings to twist or braid.
Oh,
Let's see. Um, Preschoolers for dramatic play use them as capes to be
oh,
superheroes.
fun.
Um, a couple are repeats, so I don't want to repeat. For outside play, you can make homemade hammocks. The receiving blanket and around preschoolers used for superhero capes. We have kids use them outside as a way to drag each other on. I remember doing that as a kid. Just put somebody on the blanket and drag them around. Of course, your parents aren't wild about that. What happens to the blankets after that? Put balls in the blankets and let the kids grab the ends and roll them around.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Use a blue blanket with a group of children holding the edges and waving their arms to make ocean waves.
That's fun. You can put a
Inf-
beach ball on there then too.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Infants, cognitive. Teacher covers herself or a toy in front of the child and allows the child to find the teacher or a toy to identify objects' permanence.
Albinex permanent. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, and one more, just uh, using the blanket to take them on a ride by pulling them around. On the floor, you're fine, but outside, that's when you get in trouble. All right, those are all good. Thank you.
Eh, Excellent, excellent. And I was sitting there thinking about too. I was thinking about your school age children because especially when COVID changed everything. We heard from family child care providers that they had school agers all day long. Now things have gone more a little bit back to normal in a lot of places, but still, you are always looking for things for school agers. And one of the things that you can explore with them is, blankets around the world. Like how are the blankets used by someone who lives in maybe India the same or different as the blanket they use? Or how are the blankets used in Russia different than the blankets used in, I don't know, Argentina, right? So the internet again, while it should not be used strictly for entertainment, it can be a powerful, powerful source of information for children. And it's important for them to learn that, right? To learn, like, if you want to know something, that the internet can be a source of information, teaching them how to evaluate the types of websites to visit, like the .edus and the .govs and the .orgs, and the fact that, it's really important to look for a reputable source. But exploring blankets from around the world, you could even do that with your more advanced preschoolers, and tying in social studies if you want to tie in some character education. Blankets are something that are always, always looked for at shelters, whether it be homeless shelters, women's shelters, whatever, for donations. And so if there's any way the children can gather or collect blankets, old blankets that are still in good condition that they can donate, that would be something that, again, your school age children could take that on as a project. Um, there's also a lot of things you can do with blankets and music. You can, put blankets on the floor and you can dance around the blanket, dance on the blanket, dance, go under the blanket. You can have small, if you have receiving blankets, they can hold those as they dance, almost like you would a scarf. So you can tie in some music. But there's just so many things, again, that you can do with something as simple as a blanket. And that was the whole point of this, was to help you see that not only can you address different ages, right? You can address so many developmental areas with such simple materials. Um, so one important thing to talk about, though, in conjunction with all of this, obviously, is safety, right? And choking hazards like the bottle caps on a water bottle, even pom poms, they need to be super big, not fit through a toilet tissue roll with little people. I'm talking under threes and unders. Just very sharp edges, like I mentioned, the clothes basket. Sometimes plastic things like plastic tubs. I've been known to cut my finger on those kinds of things. So you just have to be careful and make sure before you give them to the children that there's nothing sharp about them that could hurt them or be dangerous in any way. And the same thing with, any material can technically be dangerous if the children choose to use it in such a way, which sometimes it seems like they come up with those ideas, even though you're like, how did they ever think to do that with that? I would never in a million years have thought to do that, but I know with my own children, that's kind of what happens. So you kind of have to think like a toddler. But just keeping in mind the safety is really super important. Obviously, if you're using things like sponges, you want them to be new. Bath poofs, again, you want them to be new. But other things like a blanket, a towel, those kind of things, as long as they're clean, it's obviously does not need to be new. And in fact, like I said, the thrift store can be a great Goodwill. Those places can be great places to find things like a blanket. Let's say you do want a blue blanket and you want to use it as an ocean, but you don't have one and you certainly don't want to go out and spend a lot of money on one. You never know. You might want find one at the Goodwill store and you can put it in the washing machine and it's just fine. So, just using common sense when picking materials is really important. The other thing is to share ideas, and that's what we're doing here tonight, and that's what hopefully I'll be able to compile this all and send it out to you. But it's also so important to utilize to share your ideas. We often on our Facebook page will post questions and encourage people to share their ideas on there. So if you don't follow us on Facebook, it'd be great to follow GWIS Education. We also do have a YouTube channel. That's where we post all these recorded videos. But all these places can be great places to find ideas that you can then use with your group. And if you have ideas, you should feel free to share them. That's how we all learn. I mean, it's a very powerful, powerful thing. Um, I'm going to stop right here for just a second before I leave my PowerPoint presentation and take you to the website where I show you some more items. But I want to see if there are any questions about anything we covered in the PowerPoint so far. Anything about choosing materials, anything about how you can use the household things you have, any thoughts, any questions. I'll just pause for a second and then we're going to go to our website.
And just so you know, this PowerPoint is a handout that you can see over in the right-hand corner. But if you don't have time to download it tonight, it is on our website, and Beth will show you where that is too. So don't worry about not if you need this PowerPoint just to kind of refresh your memory about the things we've talked about tonight. Okay, let's see if we don't have any questions yet. So good information, Beth, no questions. If
Okay.
you do have questions afterwards, just know that you have our website, and you can also send the questions. I think you have my email. You probably have Beth's too, with where you had reminders about coming tonight. So just send us a question afterwards if you need to. But no questions right now, Beth.
Okay, great. All right, so I've now gone to our website, which is gwiseducation.com. And before I go anywhere, I want to just take you really quickly to where Sherry was mentioning the PowerPoint presentation is. Under training and support, if you go to webinar training, and by the way, this is being recorded and will be posted here. So if you want to go back and watch it again, if you missed something, it will be right here on this button. We'll change to watch, the word watch, and you'll be able to click it and watch it. Um, but here's where you can download the PowerPoint presentation where it says PowerPoint presentation. We're going to talk about the post assessment and certificate of attendance in just a second. I don't want to cover that right now. I just really wanted, excuse me there, I went too far. I just really wanted to show you that the PowerPoint presentation was right here. So again, to get to the PowerPoint presentation, if you don't have time to download it as the handout right now, I'm just under training and support and under webinar training. Okay, and we're going to come back to, yes, there will be an ability to access a certificate of attendance. There is a post assessment that you need to complete in order to get to that certificate. If you are in Pennsylvania, you will need to do that post assessment in order for me to give you credit in the PD registry. So anyway, we'll come back to that. What I want to do right now is I'm going to scroll down actually to a webinar that, and this page has all the webinars that we have done so far, well, actually probably in the past year or so. If you're curious about GWIS and how we do things with our curriculum, because we do exactly what we're doing tonight. We use household materials for our activities and our lessons for mixed age groups. You can watch this one, Choosing and Using GWIS. That's a great one. But what I'm going down here to is the next one down. This was a webinar called Lesson Planning for a Mixed Age Group. And under here, there's a handout called, it says Teacher's Guide, Balls, Blankets, and Boxes. If you click that, this is actually a teaching guide from June of 2020, which was an entire unit that we did using household materials, balls, blankets, and boxes. And I thought maybe since you came to this webinar, you would find this helpful, interesting, stimulating, idea, full of ideas. I don't know, but this is one of the teaching guides we do at GWIS. We do 2 teaching guides every month. This is one of the ones we did in June of 2020. And when you ask about the 10 developmental areas, the second page of this has those 10, and it has the symbols that we use for those in our lesson plans. So here are the 10 that we were talking about when we were going through the PowerPoint. It's the second page of this teaching guide. I'm also going to show you where you can find this in our user's guide. But since I was going here, I figured I'd show it to you right now. Um, so what we do is we do exactly what we just went through. And not just in this unit, but in any unit that we do, we try to use things you're going to have around the house. But this one's really focused on that because it's all about balls, blankets, and boxes. Um, so for instance, we every day we have our exploring together, which is a group time. We don't call it circle time because it's really not a time when that you as the adult are just simply talking and the children are listening. It's really when everybody's exploring together, hence the name. But to give you some idea over here of how in this unit we used household materials, there's this experience here called Will It Fit? And all you really needed were assorted boxes in different sizes. And the whole idea of this experience is that children will just experiment. They will see what will fit in what box. Will that big teddy bear fit in the little box? Will the big teddy bear fit in the big box? Will that truck fit in the big box? Will the truck fit in the little box? So again, exploring. Over here, box artists, again, assorted boxes. You could even use the ones you had over here, and then they're going to decorate them however they would like. And then the infant experience for the day was just simply a box where you turn the box upside down and make noise with the box, and they could flip the box over and maybe climb in the box, and you could describe what they're doing. So I wanted to show you this. There are actually 10 days of experiences in this guide. It continues on like this for 10 days, and then we have some school age experiences right here, fold and unfold. Simple, right? A cardboard box, you can always take the tape off and fold it flat, and then you can fold it back together again. Well, that's quite a learning experience of something that's just, a box. So then there's the school age experiences. There's some in the back here, there's a whole book list that would tie in if you were doing this unit. So again, I really wanted to show you this because I thought it was a great example of an entire unit that we planned as part of our curriculum that was utilizing household materials. So I know everybody's gonna say, how did you get there? Where did you go? And Sherry's probably like, oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to go over it again. All right, so I'm going to go back all the way to our homepage, and I'm going to show you exactly how I got to that teaching guide. So I went under training and support, and then I went to webinar training, and I clicked on that. And then I scrolled down to our recorded webinar about lesson planning for a mixed age group, which is a great webinar if you have a mixed age group to watch. And I clicked right here on teacher guide for balls, blankets, and boxes. It is a PDF file. It should just open on your computer automatically. If you want to save it, you can save it here. If you want to download it, you can download it here. These materials are available to everybody. I am not logged in as a customer. You can access all these recorded webinars, handouts, everything. It's just here for anyone really to utilize. Now, the 10 developmental areas, if you want more extensive information on those, you go to our user's guide, and then you can click on developmental areas. And again, it's going to open. And so here's our graphic with the 10 developmental areas. And then this section of our user's guide actually talks about each area of development, what it is, what it looks like for different age groups. Okay, so to get there again, this user's guide is an extensive document, but we've broken it apart over here. So you can really pick the area that you want. And I went to developmental areas, but you're welcome to download the whole thing if you would like. Because again, this is all free to anyone who comes to our website. All right. So that was again under about the curriculum and then the user's guide. Any questions about that so far? Any questions about anything so far?
Don't have any yet.
Okay, So we're going to get ready to wrap it up for this evening. I really, really love all the participation. And like I said, my goal is to type up all the ideas and I will send each one of you an email regarding that has an attachment, a PDF of all the things that we had. The handout with everything from everybody that everybody shared. Just give me a few days to get it together. And now what we need to do is we need to talk about the certificate and the post-assessment because I know that's super important. So going back again under webinar training, under training and support, and this time I'm just going to scroll down to the webinar we're on tonight, which is No Money, No Problem. You're going to see a link that says link to assessment and certificate. Okay. If you click it now, nothing's going to happen because I have to turn it on. The post assessment is nothing more than a Google form, like a short little quiz, multiple choice question, should not take you long at all to do. And then when you get to the end of it, after you answer the 10 questions or whatever it is, there's going to be a button that says submit. And when you click submit, pay attention because a message will pop up and say, thank you so much for doing your post assessment. Here's a link to print your certificate, okay, of attendance. Again, if you were in Pennsylvania and you have registered for this event in the PD registry, you must complete that post assessment in order for me to give you credit for attending. Okay, so and give me give me at least a day or so to do that because I have to cross-reference everything, right? I have to cross-reference my attendee list for the webinar with the post assessment with the PD registry. So it's a multi-step process. So just be patient. But if I haven't done it by the end of the week and you don't see you have credit in there, and you attended it and you did the post assessment, just shoot me an email. My email, by the way, is B as in boy Smith at gwizeducation.com. And you're welcome to email me about anything that happened during the webinar, or if you're having issues with PD registry. If you're in Pennsylvania, let me know. But after we finish the webinar in a few minutes, just give me literally a few minutes and I will turn that post assessment on. Again, I'm under the tab for training and support, and then webinar training is just where I went. And then I scrolled down and you're going to click right on this one that says link to assessment and certificate to be activated after the webinar, which will be activated in just a few minutes after the webinar. I just have to turn it on. And it's not hard. Trust me. You guys did a great job tonight, and it's not hard. It's just we have to do something to say, yes, I attended, yes, I paid attention, and then you can print out your certificate of attendance.
And
If
you
you have
don't, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you have any problems with that, you can go to training and support and send us an email, and just send us an email, and then we'll get back with you if you're having trouble. Go ahead, Sherry. Sorry.
Well, no, most of the time the question is about how do I get that certificate? So again, one more time, after you do the post assessment, you will get a link. So pay attention and click on that link to download that certificate. And you don't have to get everything right to get that link. You just have to complete the post assessment to get the link. But you do have to complete the assessment to get the link and then
Yes, right.
download the
So
certificate.
what you'll do is you'll answer all the questions and hit the submit button. I think it's green. It's at the bottom. And just pay attention when you do that, because then a message will pop up that says thank you for completing it. Some browsers may not let you just click the link. You might actually have to block and copy it and put it in a new tab. You know how that works up in your browser window. You'll know when you open it up. But again, if you have trouble, let us know and we'll be happy to work with you. But most people, it's not that hard. They figure it out.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts before we wrap it up for this evening?
And I will say that the post assessment, you can do it as many times as you want. You don't have to do it just once. So if you miss the link the first time you do it and you want to come back and do the post assessment again, do it. And then you can get the link the next time. So, and plus you might learn something from doing the post assessment that maybe you missed during the webinar. So, um, but I'm just looking, I don't see any question. The one question was about how to locate the post assessment. I think we covered that. Um, pretty good. But the recording should be posted by tomorrow afternoon, so we have to wait for it to process, and then we'll post it where Beth said that where you click, there'll be a little button that says watch here. So if you want to go back, because there is a lot of material covered, you can go back and watch or listen to the recording at your leisure whenever you would like.
Yes, this button here that says right now to register, click above, will change simply to the word watch. And then if you click it, it'll automatically open the webinar and you can watch it.
Yeah. So anyway, I do want to thank everyone for coming. We had quite a turnout and quite some great responses and some great participation. Oh, it's late. I've had a long day too. But anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. A little bit of people from all over. And with that, Beth, do you have anything else?
Nope, just literally give me maybe 2 minutes and I'll go out. I will turn on the post assessment. Again, if you have any trouble, you need help, just go to training and support, send us an email, fill out the form and let us know what your problem is and we'll do our best to get back with you as quickly as we can. And as far as compiling all your ideas, I will work on that and try to get it done by the end of this week, but just look for an email from me and I will send it out as soon as I can get it done.
But thank you guys for coming, and we're going to say good night. Beth?
Yep. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. Night.